Hello and welcome back to the latest edition of the Debrief here on the Blood Red channel. I'm your host, Edward Kay. Joining me live from Anfield is Theo Squires once again. Liverpool winning 1-0 against Brentford, and we're going to start with pretty much the only thing to talk about from the game. Mohamed Salah's goal makes it, and I'm just going to reel off the records here, 100 Anfield goals, 9 home games in a row he scored. He's level with Gerrard on 186 goals, in 5th on Liverpool's all-time top scorers list. And I mean, Theo, we're talking about a new record pretty much every game now, aren't we?
Yeah, we are. He's Anfield royalty, a Liverpool legend. I've seen him doing this season after season. It's 30 goals in a season, yet again, for Mohamed Salah. And this is a player who was supposed to be having a poor season, if you'd listen to the critics, shall we say. But he's still getting all the goals, all the assists, and he's the match winner again today. A poacher's finished from him in the right place at the right time to get another valuable 3 points. Liverpool making a habit of winning these games by the odd goal here and there, and how many of these in crucial strikes puts them, a point off Manchester United now for top 4. Granted, they've played 2 games more. You can't take it for granted yet. You'd imagine it's still too far out of reach. But if they do come into contention here, all these strikes will start adding up for Salah, and they could be worth millions to the club. But yeah, he's a Liverpool legend who's been breaking record after record. We've said it before, he must have broken the record for a number of records broken by now. If he's not, that's only a matter of time. He is one of the greatest players in Liverpool's history, without a doubt.
Yeah, as you said, Anfield royalty. But I wanted to get your thoughts on the formation today. Obviously, Liverpool coming off the back of 5 Premier League wins in a row before this one. Changing the formation, was that a big surprise to you? Do you think that was born out of necessity with a couple of midfield injuries? Obviously, Thiago now out for the season, or do you think Klopp was sort of just experimenting and seeing what else he can get to work before the end of the season?
It was pretty much the same setup, really. Looking at it, it was just Gakpo was in that midfield instead of Henderson. That was necessity. Like Brentford, we know how good they are at counter-attacks, but we know how good they are in the air as well, set pieces. And Henderson is taking a knock, hasn't he? He's been struggling in the week. Other injuries they've got. At least Gakpo's a bit of height in midfield. He's good on the ball. Having said that, I don't think it necessarily worked. Like Liverpool, as the game wore on and they lost control, they did need that extra midfielder to come on. They did need Henderson to come on. They needed Milner to come after that, to give him that bit of experience to see it out. It's something we have seen. I think it was against Real Madrid when Gakpo was in a more midfield role. We've seen Klopp do it a couple of times out of necessity with like Roberto Firmino or Takumi Minamino, even Fabio Carvalho. But this one was more, you're looking at who you're up against. Rather than putting a Harvey Elliott in there or Milner when you're not going to get 90 minutes and he's probably leaving anyway, you go for that physical presence. It's not as though Brentford overran the midfield by any means. It's just it didn't quite work. It wasn't as fluid. But you could say that's the same with the front 3. Like Nunez again, it was another game where he's that square peg in a round hole, not quite working for him. Whereas you'd imagine it would have been more fluid if, say, Jota had been on the left, Gakpo down the middle, and it's more familiar for Liverpool. But at the stage of the season when Klopp said they are trying new things, they are seeing what works, seeing what midfield options they've got. You'd much rather he puts Cody Gakpo in there than he turns to Artemelo, for example. You want them to focus on the players that are actually going to be here next season, who can be part of this club's future. It's hopefully not an experiment we'll see too often, especially after a midfield revamp. But you can't have too many complaints when it does end with a 1-0 win today.
Yeah, you mentioned Cody Gakpo's physical presence in the midfield there. Obviously, Brentford are a very physical team. We knew that coming into the game. And Liverpool, quite a lot this season, have been accused. I mean, Jurgen Klopp himself has said in press conferences that they've lacked intensity at times over the season. So, how positive was it to sort of see Liverpool manage to match Brentford's intensity today, their physicality? It was a very, very scrappy game, the amount of fouls between Tony and Kanate and things like that. Yeah. How impressed were you with how they managed to sort of keep up with Brentford's physicality today?
Yeah, it's a positive we can take from the last few weeks, really, that Liverpool have got that bit of intensity back. It's not by any means their best. It's not the levels they were reaching when they were winning everything there was to win. But they've got that bit more energy in their legs now, it feels. They're not like being overrun in midfield. The change of system has helped. Like, granted, with that, it creates spaces and gaps in the defence, and teams can run into that. And Brentford did try and get in behind the defence a few times, as we've seen a number of teams do in recent weeks. But Liverpool kept quiet. They kept them quiet. They didn't concede too many chances. Alisson didn't have as much to do, I think, as he did against Fulham in terms of actual saves. It was nitty, it was gritty, but maybe Liverpool needed that. It was another way they ground it out. They got it over the line. It's just good to see them not being second best at everything. Like they weren't winning their second balls, but they were winning the first ones. They were challenging. And it's a step in the right direction. As Klopp said before, it's a small step in the right direction. You expect it'll be something they'll address in the summer with new signings, full pre-season, etc., etc.
Yeah, I wanted to touch on Curtis Jones' performance, because obviously you spoke about the intensity having been back of late, and obviously he's been starting recently, had a really good run in the team, and Klopp's spoken about how impressed he's been with his counter pressing and his intensity. So what did you think of his performance today? It was a fairly quiet one, but that pressing intensity was definitely still there, wasn't it?
Yeah, it is. That's one of the things he has brought into the team since he's got in. Like, he can lead the press. He can be the one who's chasing it all the way back down to the goalkeeper. That he's got those legs. He's 22 now. He's not a kid anymore. He's certainly flourishing, having this run of games after getting rid of the injury. And he's a bit more physical now. He's a bit built. You can tell he's coming a man, isn't he? He's not just this young talent. And that comes with it. Like, when you've got that energy, Klopp said in press conference earlier in the season that it was so hard when they were still competing in the Champions League because they weren't training properly for a full week, and you couldn't get Curtis Jones up to speed because then they'd have a day off, then recovery, then they'd be back in, and all of this adds up. You can't give him that full training that he needs to get up to his fitness levels. But then when they could, he's ready. And we've seen that in the team in recent weeks. Like, he is covering every blade of grass. And that's something we used to say of Jordan Henderson or a James Milner. And you can probably make the comparison there because Jones isn't at times the most popular player. He could be the one that becomes that boo boy when Milner moves on, maybe when Henderson's coming towards the end as well, as while you're playing Curtis Jones. But he wins the ball back. He has this work rate to him that Liverpool have lacked this season. And depending on what direction Liverpool want to take it next year, that is what their midfield needs. That is the trademark we saw when you had Gini Wijnaldum in there and they were winning the Champions League, Premier League. They need that energy. They need that work rate to run teams into the ground. And Curtis Jones certainly brings that.
Yeah, I have to say, I haven't always rated him as highly as others, to be fair, but he's really showing a different side of his game, I think recently starting and sort of leading that press. He's definitely bringing something to the side, but player who didn't really bring too much to the team today, once again, Núñez. It's so wild how his season sort of completely turned around. At the start of the season, we were coming on here, and every time afterwards, he was all you could talk about. He's had however many chances. All right, he might have missed a couple, but he was probably going to get a goal as well. And now he's just, specifically these last two games, he's just been so quiet, hasn't he?
He's been quiet pretty much since the March international break, and initially we thought maybe it was because of the ankle injury he took against Real Madrid, but it is a deliberate decision for him to come out of the team and Liverpool to go back to basics and what they're familiar with a Diaz on the left or a Jota on the left. The players that just get the system and they're used to it. If you remember earlier in the season when Núñez was the star striker down the middle and it was trying to play through him using his pace and behind, how often we'll be saying Mohamed Salah's not getting on it enough. Mohamed Salah's too far out wide, and then you'd ruin all the missed chances that would fall Núñez's way. You'd score a couple, but Liverpool were dropping points. Yeah, it's frustrating for him. It's frustrating for the fans because you want to see him doing more. He's a £64 million striker who's had a decent season enough in terms of goals, but it's still not quite that finished article. But you can't complain when reverting to Liverpool's basics in terms of that front three is now getting Salah scoring every week. Like, that is where the points are coming from, plain and simple. Liverpool are playing in a way that players know that he's getting the best out of the players that are starting, and he's getting goals from these attacking players. And Núñez isn't quite in sync with the rest of it, whether it's communication issues or just because he's not having that run of games at the moment, he's low on confidence. You're hoping a full pre-season could help turn that around. But then it's not as though he needs to turn his Liverpool career around by any means. He's just a young player having these ups and downs. But Liverpool, they look much more like Liverpool with him out of the starting 11 recently. Like, it isn't just all or nothing on Núñez, which is what we were saying when he's agent of chaos. Like, Liverpool weren't playing well, at least that's the agent of chaos. Give him the ball and something will happen. It was the best chance of victories. Now they don't need to rely on chaos because they're in a bit more control of their destiny. They can actually control games, score goals, win games their own way, rather than just gambling on this eccentric striker, shall we say.
Yeah, I think, as you say, I think the frustrating thing with Nunes is that his sort of lack of goal scoring form has seemed to coincide with Liverpool actually playing a lot better. But it's 6 Premier League wins in a row now, 8 unbeaten heading into the game against Leicester, but a 9-day break now. Do you think it'll be good for Liverpool to sort of get the legs back underneath them a bit, or do you think they'd like to keep it rolling?
A mixture of the two, really. You say as soon as you get in these games and you're winning them, you want to play the next one. You want to play the next one. But at the same time, Liverpool haven't been as as in control as you'd like to see from in these games. Like, they've had to properly grind them out. They've been narrow 1-goal wins where they've thrown away a 3-0 lead or had to really defend late on against a surge. You want them to be a bit more in control, but they have got a lot of injuries. Like, these 9 days on the training pitch is 9 days where they can get more used to the system. So Konate and Trent, Fabinho, they can get that for their positioning right with the new inverted fullback. You can get Diogo Jota to shake off his knock once and for all. It's another week in training for Diaz after the knee injury. Henderson can shake off his injuries. You're hoping Keita and Firmino, maybe they'll be in matchday squad appearances soon. It's given Liverpool that time to recover and go again for the final stretch. There'll be a better idea of where they can finish next time they do take to the pitch, just because they're that Monday night game. So I think there isn't any game in hands, like the actual game in hands for United or Newcastle this week. There is for Brighton, and then you've got United playing tomorrow, maybe Newcastle as well. So like that gap is going to grow, you'd imagine, by the time Liverpool take to the pitch next, with them playing the weekend before the Monday. But then if they've dropped points again, it's just open the door to Liverpool going, how close can you get to us? And then it's also when you're looking over your shoulder to see how far Brighton can get ahead of you or close the gap on you. We're down to that final straight now. We'll see if it is top 4, probably Europa League, or if a late collapse ends in the Conference League or even out of Europe. At the moment, you'd say 5th or 6th is likely.
Yeah, I think spot on there. 5th looking pretty likely, 6th maybe, but 4th not so much. It's 9 days until we'll see the Reds in action, and I think I'm edging towards that being a bit of a positive with the knocks that Liverpool have got at the moment. You know, get everyone fighting fit again before Leicester away. But that is all we've got time for here on the debrief tonight. So thanks from myself and from Theo, and it's goodbye for now.